weekend has been about. We're not looking for transitional leadership. We're looking for transformational leadership. And transformational leaders are our servant leaders. And our servant leaders are our most humble, our most reverent, our most open, our most teachable, our most respectful, and our most caring leaders. Aubrey, you are a servant leader. Why is servant leadership so important? Because it is congruent with the purpose of life. And the purpose of life is very simple. Why? Because God doesn't make anything complicated. He needs for everyone to understand it. We make things complicated. God doesn't make things complicated. We make things complicated, Aubrey, for a couple of reasons. The first thing, and the first reason we tend to make things complicated, because the more complicated something is, the more reasons I have for not doing it. Because either you have results or reasons. Either you have results or you got reasons. The second reason we tend to complicate, now this is deep, you have to think about this for a moment. We'll pick up on this in a couple of weeks. The second reason we tend to make things complicated is to control power. So you see, the more complicated I can make something, the less you understand it, Aubrey, the more I am in control. Credit default swaps. What? Even the bankers, most of them didn't even understand it. So I'm going to uncomplicate the purpose of life for you. Right. The purpose of life is to love, to give, to serve, and to add value to somebody or something. There is no other reason for living. This is the reason God put you here, to love, to give, to serve, and to add value. This is why servant leadership is what will move our people to the promised land. The great Peter Drucker from California, Claremont, California, died a couple of years ago, considered the greatest management guru in the history of the world. Said it best. He said only three things happen naturally in communities and organizations: friction, confusion, and underperformance. Everything else requires leadership. 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 First, personal leadership. Because if you can't lead you, you damn sure can't lead me. But you can't teach what you don't know, and you can't give what you don't have. So personal leadership is the most important demonstration of your potential leadership abilities. And then a redefinition for black people of leadership. So let me give that to you. Let me lay this on you. You're going to think about this too. We're going to redefine leadership for black leaders for the 21st and 22nd century. To be a leader is to be awake and alert and to be dissatisfied at all times. Oh yes, we have come a long way, but we have much further to go. Therefore, I am not happy, but I am motivated by a positive anger directed towards positive change. What do we know about change? We know that you will never change that which you tolerate. And you will only change when you get angry. Let me say that differently. People will not change when they see the light. People will change when they feel the heat. Do your feet hurt? When your feet hurt, you don't get out of them damn shoes. Only when your feet hurt. When you feel some pain. Now, if you are a Negro in America and you don't feel any pain, you're not in this conversation. Don't come to the Power Networking Conference, and please don't join the California Chamber. Because we are not of like mind. You're comfortable, you're doing okay, and it's about you. Parenthood is one of the most important leadership responsibilities in life and will provide the greatest levels of joy and happiness, and no success can compensate for failure at home. Let me say that differently. If you screw up our children, you've just written your ticket to a living hell. But you cannot lead our people, this is Cornell West, if you do not love our people. And you can't save our people if you won't serve our people. At the Power Networking Conference, we cover 3 subjects. We cannot be all things to all people. If you're trying to solve AIDS in Africa or AIDS in Washington, D.C., that's important. Don't come to the Power Networking Conference because we ain't working on that. Okay? We ain't working on that. We're working on business, money, and wellness. Psychological wellness, because we're still deeply wounded and screwed up people. And physical wellness, because our psychological illness has impacted our physical wellness. We are still deeply wounded, and we need work on that. So we work on 3 things. Wealth, resolving the economic literacy in the context of our community. We are still an economically illiterate people. Now, not all of us, just most of us. You can't say all of anything, right? There's some brothers and sisters out here doing it. But they are in the extreme minority. And if they're doing it, I know them. Right? Because you tend to know people that's doing what you're doing. So the film Black Friday is about this particular subject. We'll be showing it also at the Power Networking Conference. It's about money. It's trying to help our people to understand why we must focus on economic development, wealth creation, closing the income and wealth gap between black folk and white folk in America. I said black folk and white folk. I didn't say Asians. I didn't say East Indians. I didn't say Arabs. I said between black folk and white folk. That's where our problem is. Why is wealth important? Oh my God, what a question. Why is it important that we have more money? Not to buy more stuff. We don't need any more stuff, Barbara. We got plenty of stuff. In fact, we got too much stuff. That's a whole nother lecture. We'll put a pin in that. If you invite me back someday, Aubrey, I'll pick up on stuff. We just call that presentation stuff. We are the only culture in the history of humankind that put political empowerment before economic empowerment. Last year, we elected over 9,000 black public officials, and we're still at the bottom of the educational and economic heap. What does that mean? It means you can't do it by politics alone. How dare we put that kind of pressure on our political leadership? But again, we're no fools. We were born at night, but not last night. We didn't come over here with the last drop of rain. Right? So yes, we must, or I should say, we know that we're all impacted by public policy. I ain't stupid. Right? And so we must continue to use the power of our vote to empower those who empower us. If they're not empowering us, get them out of there. That's on you. Why is wealth important? I said this in the film, I'm going to repeat it. Your wealth will determine where you live. Where you live will determine where your children go to school. Where your children go to school will determine the quality of your children's higher education. And the quality of your children's higher education will determine your children's lifelong earnings. And your children's lifelong earnings will determine where your children live. And where your children live will determine where your grandchildren go to school. And where your grandchildren go to school will determine the quality of your grandchildren's higher education, and that will determine their life. You see the cycle of poverty there? Why is wealth important? Because in a market-based economy, in a democratic capitalist society, the only color that really matters is green. I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying that's what it is. So until our pile of green is as big and as high and as deep and as wide and as leveraged as any other cultural group's pile of green, we will never be considered an equal at the table of democratic capitalism. Why is wealth important? Because when we finish pontificating ad nauseum about our issues, somebody's got to write a check. Our Jewish brothers and sisters can write a check. Our Asian brothers and sisters can write a check. Our East Indian brothers and sisters can write a check. I've been to Dubai, and our Arab brothers and sisters can write a stupid check. With 1.2 trillion, we can't write a check. In fact, let me peel back the onion on that, and I don't want to say this and still be loved. We cannot, generally speaking, even convene unless somebody else writes the check. Ask the Congressional Black Caucus, the Urban League, and the NAACP when they convene annually. If somebody else ain't writing that check, including the Power Networking Conference, we can't even meet. So then when that happens, the golden rule kicks in. What's the golden rule? Those who that's right. Those who have the goal rules. Well, Dr. Fraser, I know you would like for us to sponsor you. What would you be talking about? Oh, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Oh, well, we like A, B, and C, but we don't like D, F, and G. We ain't feeling that. That's not on our agenda. So, can you adjust your agenda so that we can write this check so that you could at least talk about what you want to talk about? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We got to fix that. Right? We got to fix that. Why is wealth important? Aubrey said it. He said it. He just slid right by it, but he said it. He said it. Wealth is important because the tax system was set up for the landowner and the business owner, because landowners and business owners write the tax laws. So if we don't own land, and we own the fewest number of homes per capita of any cultural group in America, and we came over here on the Mayflower, and by the way, we lost 250,000 homes in the economic crisis, 2007, 2008, black people. And if we don't own businesses, and we own the fewest number of businesses per capita of any cultural group in this country, and again, we came over here on the Mayflower, you cannot fully exploit the American tax system. The American tax system will exploit you. This is why Mitt Romney didn't want you to see his tax returns when he was running against Obama. Why? Not because he did anything wrong. No, he's a big-time landowner, big-time business owner. He used the tax system. There are 14,000 pages of tax codes. It's institutionalized corruption. But if you know how to use the tax codes, because you're a landowner and a business owner, you will pay marginally, incrementally smaller taxes than even the poorest.